of the topics that Michael and I talk about to audiences that causes the most sense of evolution has practical good news for me. That this evolutionary perspective is not just something that spiritually feels good or gives me an awe of the universe or makes me feel religious in some way, but it can make sense of my life. It can have me look at my past, the transgressions in my past, the difficulties in my past and the present, and see them in a new light, see them in a light in which I have compassion for myself and compassion for others.
As a man, one of the things that I am consistently reminded of whenever there's a new sex scandal politically is the fact that trying to understand this stuff without an evolutionary worldview, that is, trying to understand this stuff simply through old traditional mythic ways, that it's my sinful nature or the devil's tempting or whatever. These are mythic understandings that served in their day, but don't serve us today nearly as well as having an understanding grounded in our best sciences around evolutionary psychology and evolutionary brain science. And I can say this from my own personal experience. I mean, I betrayed my first wife. I betrayed Connie early in our marriage, and I was not conscious of my own unchosen nature. I didn't have an evolutionary understanding of my brain. I didn't understand that the more visible I become in the world, the more people are admiring me or in some way looking up to me or in some way talking about me, the more I'm in the media, the higher my testosterone levels go. I didn't understand any of that stuff. And I also didn't understand the necessity, or at least the good sense of having a few others that you can be authentic, that you can be transparent, that you can be real with. And of course, this has made all the difference for myself. And yet, having an evolutionary understanding of our brains does give us a deep insight that couldn't have been known before. For example, just the shift from judging ourselves for having these temptations, these inclinations to be out of integrity, to do things that break our vows or in some way cause us to violate our word. These things caused our ancestors to survive long enough to reproduce. And so having some gratitude, having deep gratitude for myself for those inclinations has paradoxically virtually evaporated their power over me. We are losing our political leaders and will continue to lose them until we come to terms with our basic biology.
Leaders today are no more susceptible to violations of marital vows than were leaders of the past. But in this era of tabloids and texting, sexual scandals have become epidemic.
Every political victory puts the winner in a position not only of privilege and responsibility, but also of sacrifice. Just as voters would be wise to withhold their vote from any candidate who lacks a basic understanding of the economy, so should we be wary of electing any man who is ignorant of his biological instincts.
Foremost, he must know about testosterone, what testosterone does, and how a rise in status elevates this hormone, and thus intensifies one's sex drive and willingness to take risks.
We can assume that Governors Sanford and Spitzer both knew that testosterone is the sex hormone. We can also assume that Senators Ensign, Edwards, and Craig knew that the more testosterone one has, the more insistent the sex drive. What most politicians don't know, however, are 5 scientific discoveries that provide crucial perspective.
First, the average adult male has 30 to 50 times the testosterone of an average female. Translated, the sex drive and willingness to engage in risky activities is usually exceedingly more compelling for men than for women.
Second, politicians are not average men. They are high-status men. The body responds to elevation in social position by boosting the levels of testosterone.
Third, most women instinctively become flirtatious around high-status men. We are all descendants of great-great-great-grandmothers whose offspring were fed and protected during the worst famines and calamities, thanks to this instinct.
Fourth, dalliance-free monogamy does not have an exemplary track record in any cultural tradition, nor among our primate kin. Only recently have political leaders in America been watched and outed for such transgressions.
Fifth, when the sexual drive butts up against culturally forged values and commitments, judgment may be hijacked. Rational argument morphs into rationalization, and the deceiver becomes self-deceived. Michael and I both view this perspective as being so practically useful, including for the recovery movement, because whether it's dealing with a sexual addiction or an emotional infatuation or a drug addiction, whatever it is, the very, very first place evolution takes you to is, number one, appreciation. Appreciation that these instincts do exist. You would not be here without it. They served your ancestors in some form or capacity. It helps us move out of denial.